represent one of her first large public displays. So as the engine begins to turn, how about a round of applause for the fighter factory? Oh, breathe in that smoke, you guys on the ramp. All that engine burning off the manifold. Have fun. All that oil. It's going to take a while. Even walking the prop through, oil will pool in the lower cylinders of the radial engine. And so when igniting, it does take a while for that residual fuel oil to make its way out of the system. Making its way into the system and into the flight pattern now. Here goes the Waco YMS-5. Happy participants of the Virginia Warbird weekend. Guests get to ride in the front cockpit of the YMS-5. No guests along for the ride in either the Wildcat or the TBM. The Avenger of 1941. The flight we're about to witness is not unlike what someone might have seen in the United States Navy following the aftermath of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. So we're going to recreate for you a joint flight of these two stalwart aircraft of the Grumman Company. Grumman aircraft, of course, only recently departed from the scene, although the name lives on. Grumman now largely absorbed, and there she goes, the wings unfolding, as we prepare to see what was the largest carrier-borne aircraft of World War II take to the skies from our runway here in Virginia Beach. Two radial engines turning in synchronization now. Mr. Kevin Sinibaldi, former pilot of A6 Intruder, another great Grumman for the Torpedo Aimer. Not where I would want to be, but the way it was back in 1941. But today, it's just Mr. John Fuentes lofting skyward in our Avenger. So we hope to see him form up with Mr. Sinibaldi. I don't think they're going to enjoy this one bit, do you? Again, we're very grateful to the Fighter Factory for all of their efforts to restore our TBM to flying condition. And she is first to taxi out onto the ramp today. Age before beauty, you might say. Although beauty is in the eye of the beholder, these two jugs and juggernauts of World War II represented the backbone of U.S. aviation naval aviation during the Second World War, and were used extensively by other nations as well. We should also point out both planes entered service in an era before the widespread use of catapults on board aircraft carriers. And so, as large as the Avenger is, and as hokey as the Wildcat looks, neither one of them will require much in the way of runway to get airborne today. And we know that both of our pilots will take full advantage of that capability from the runway of the Military Aviation Museum.
I was, but now that I'm on the plane. Once we start the takeoff run.
Taking a ride today, so there goes the steerman in advance of our Grumman flight. Slow on the roll, we've got a bit of a crosswind, so taking it easy, taking it slow, staying below the tree line. Utilizing our trees for the windbreak. As you break free of the trees, you may see, kicking the rudder a little bit to the right. John Fuentes at the controls. Wildcat, piloted by Mr. Kevin Sinibaldi. Boeing and Grumman aircraft, these planes still occupied the hangar decks of American aircraft carriers and were still at overseas installations in 1941. The Wildcat was just about called the Brewster Buffalo. It's a great name, isn't it? Buffalo. Well, big, slow, and plodding, but not quite as powerful as the name would suggest. The Buffalo proved itself ill-equipped to handle the Japanese Zero, and these aircraft were shot down in large numbers, operated both by the United States and the British. As well, at the theater, it was rapidly withdrawn from service and replaced with the F-4F. The F-4F actually derived from an earlier plane, the F-3F. The F-4F Royal Air Force, the Fleet Air Arm of the of the British Navy, and also the French Air Forces as well, accepted Wildcats in service. And we should point out that the Grumman Wildcat represents the very first U.S. airplane to achieve a victory over a German aircraft. And I can see swinging behind Mr. Sinibaldi and Wildcat. 6 Avengers participated in the Battle of Midway. Unfortunately, it didn't go particularly well for the Avengers at the time because the air crews were novices and the planes successfully in the Atlantic as well, in the Battle of the North Atlantic, the longest running conflict during the Second World War. The Battle of the Atlantic included the deployment of unique aircraft carriers referred to as jeep carriers or escort carriers, often converted merchantmen turned into small flat decks, ideally suited with a short takeoff and landing capability like the Wildcat.
Glad to hear they changed it.
Their demonstration flights today in our Avenger and Wildcat. Known as the Martlet in Royal Navy service, and one of the preferred aircraft for the man perhaps well known in aviation regarding the Wildcat, and the TBF for the Avenger. The reason that we put the letter M for Mary into our designation is because both of that auto manufacturer. Forming up now in close formation, flying overhead, Avenger and Wildcat together. Carriers on display in New York, where the Fighting Eye, the USS Intrepid, serves as a museum and a memorial, and in Corpus Christi, Texas, where they're finally being dispatched as a, well, expended in a live fire exercise at the Bikini Atoll, demonstrating the effectiveness of nuclear weapons after the Second World War. One of several such capital ships that were sunk in that demonstration of nuclear power. But demonstrating his physical power and skill, here comes Mr. Sinibaldi on finals, flaps down, gear down, the Wildcat coming in for a landing at the MAM. A round of applause, please, for Mr. Sinibaldi, Captain of the United States Navy, and involved in restorations of these airplanes for the Commemorative Air Force. So we're very happy to have him with us this weekend piloting the museum's own Avenger, and I can see the gear is down, the flaps are down, and I would like for you to observe when the Avenger comes in for its landing, look and see if the flaps, if they are deployed to their fullest extent and if the plane prepares to touch down. Avenger by its pilots and crew, not necessarily a term of endearment, but she was known as the turkey to all who flew in her during the Second World War. So I can see to the east, the gear is down, the flaps are down. You tell me, does this look like a turkey? I think so. Nothing to do with the pilot, it's the plane. And as I said, that is how she was known to all who flew in the Avenger during the Second World War. She was known as the Turkey, but we'll call her the Avenger because truly she did avenge the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor and became, as I said, the largest airplane flown by the United States Navy during the Second World War, and one of the largest single-engine aircraft ever operated, single-engine piston-engine aircraft. A slow approach, and here comes Mr. John Fuentes.
I was always surprised.
A bounce, no wire to catch here, and 3 down, and there we are. Yes, please, applause for Mr. Fuentes. I think we're going to get a little bit of a parade as they pass back down. As both aircraft make their way back to the tarmac, and then bringing up the rear, Mr. John Fuentes, flat still down. Then our TBM Avenger. You'll notice that Mr. Fuentes taking the same approach as Mr. DeMucci in terms of making a slow edge pattern down the runway, because he too needs to be able to see past the impressive radial engine of his Avenger. And look along the center line of the underside of the aircraft, you'll see where the bomb bay is. And I can see from the cockpit Mr. Fuentes waving, so a wave back wouldn't be amiss. You can see clearly the ball track, and you can also see the little windows off the side at the back of the aircraft from where the torpedo aimer or bomb aimer would have sat, also manning the rear gunner's position. We have a bit of a traffic jam, but Mr. Sinibaldi making